And before that, Mastermind with Magnus Magnusson.
Welcome to Mastermind. This week we have returned to Chatham and to the historic dockyard. Opened to the public as a living museum in 1985, the site covers an area of 80 acres, and it contains a fine collection of Georgian buildings, dry docks, mast houses, and the church we're in this evening. And here inside the church tonight, our four contenders are a scientific sub-editor from Wimbledon in London, a solicitor from New Barnet in Hertfordshire, a postgraduate classics student from Richmond in Surrey, and a researcher also from Wimbledon, and their chosen subjects are the composer Erik Satie, Air Chief Marshal Lord Dowding, the author Richmold Crompton, and the Mongol conqueror Genghis Khan. So may I have the first contender, please? Your name, please?
Mike Meakin.
Occupation?
Scientific sub-editor.
Your chosen specialized subject?
The life and works of Erik Satie.
Mike Meakin, you have 2 minutes on the life and works of Erik Satie, starting now. In which French fishing port was Erik Satie born in 1866?
Honfleur.
Correct. Who was the local church organist in Honfleur who gave Satie his first piano lessons?
Vino.
Correct. What was the name of Satie's stepmother, a pianist and minor composer whom he greatly disliked?
Barnett.
Correct. Who was the first person to publish Satie's music?
His father.
Correct. In 1886, Satie served briefly in the French army as a volunteer in which regiment?
The 33rd Infantry.
Correct. What was the name of the proprietor of the Cabaret Le Chat Noir in Montmartre when Satie worked there in the late 1880s?
Salis.
Correct. Who was the founder and self-appointed leader of the Rosicrucian sect in Paris, of which Satie was musical director for a short time?
Paladin.
Correct. What was the name of Satie's Spanish-born friend whose poems Satie set to music in his early songs?
Contamine de la Tour.
Correct. Who was a painter nicknamed Biki, with whom Satie had a brief and stormy love affair in 1893?
Suzanne Valadon.
Correct. Which of Satie's works, dated around 1893, bears instruction that it should be played 840 times in succession?
Vexations.
Correct. Which of Satie's piano works instructs a pianist to play like a nightingale with toothache?
Sonatine bureaucratique.
No, it's the Embryon de Sèche. To which Paris suburb did Satie move in 1898, living in self-imposed poverty and isolation until his death in 1925?
Arcueil-Cachin.
Correct. Which piano work, composed by Satie in 1912, is subtitled For a Dog?
Flavie Preludes.
Correct. Whose drawings did Satie illustrate with both text and music in his piano work Sport et Divertissement?
Charles Martin.
Correct. Who composed Satie's cantata based on the life of... Who commissioned Satie's cantata based on the life of Socrates?
Pass.
Which of Satie's stage works contains 7 dances for a monkey called Jonah?
Medusa's Trap.
Correct. In 1917, which music critic sued Satie for libel after receiving an abusive postcard from him?
Puey.
Correct. Which composer is parodied in Satie's bureaucratic sonatina?
Clementi.
Correct. In which of his ballets, performed in 1924, did Satie come onto the stage in a little car at the end of the performance?
Relax.
Correct. And at the end of that round, Mike Meakin, you have scored 17 points. You passed just one. The person who commissioned Satie's cantata based on the life of Socrates was Princess Edmond de Polignac. Mike Meakin, thank you very much. And our second contender, please. Your name, please.
Geoffrey Feingold.
Occupation.
Solicitor.
And your chosen specialised subject?
The life and career of Air Chief Marshal Lord Dowding.
Geoffrey Feingold, you have 2 minutes on Lord Dowding, starting now. In which branch of the army did Dowding first specialise in 1900?
The artillery.
Correct. What nickname given to Dowding at Army College stayed with him throughout his service career?
Stuffy.
Correct. In 1911, which sport did Dowding take up for which he later became internationally known?
Skiing.
Correct. At which airfield did Dowding learn to fly, receiving his pilot's certificate after less than 2 hours flying experience?
Brooklands.
Correct. In which squadron of the RFC did Dowding serve as an observer in his first action over France in the autumn of 1914?
6.
Correct. In 1926, what major post did Dowding take up at the Air Ministry in London?
Director of Training.
Correct. In 1930, in which post was Dowding appointed to the Air Council?
Supply and Research.
Is right. Which major aviation disaster on October the 5th, 1930 occurred shortly after Dowding's appointment to the Air Council?
Crash of the R101.
Correct. Before radar stations were fully established, what was Fighter Command's method of detecting aircraft beyond visual range?
Sound location.
Correct. In 1937, where in Suffolk did the first RAF early warning radar station begin operations?
Hawthwood Nest.
Yes, Bawdsey Manor, correct. What unofficial name was given to the incident in September 1939 when British fighters inadvertently fought each other?
The Battle of Barking Creek.
Correct. In Dowding's system of fighter control, which device enabled ground stations to keep track of friendly fighter movements?
Pipsqueak.
Is right. Where in Middlesex was Dowding's Fighter Command headquarters?
Stanmore.
Correct. After Dowding left Fighter Command in November 1940, what job did he take in the following month?
Inspection of America.
Yes, it was a technical mission to the USA. In November 1940, who replaced Dowding as CNC Fighter Command?
Sholto Douglas.
Correct. What term of endearment did Dowding use for the pilots who fought in the Battle of Britain?
My dear fighter boys.
No, chicks. During the Battle of Britain, which fighter pilot of 242 Squadron pioneered the so-called big wing tactics?
Douglas Bader.
Correct. After Dowding was created a KGCB, to whom did he write in October 1940, I would like to cut the declaration up into 1,000 pieces and distribute it to the fighter boys?
Balfour.
Correct. What was the title of Dowding's first book on spiritualism, published in 1943?
Many Mansions.
Many Mansions is correct. And at the end of that round, Geoffrey Feingold, you have scored 18 points and no passes. Thank you very much. And our third contender, please. Your name, please.
Annabel Frary,
Occupation.
postgraduate student.
And your chosen specialized subject.
The Life and William books of Richmal Crompton.
Mrs. Frary, you have 2 minutes on the Life and William books of Richmal Crompton, starting. Now, at which school was Richmal a pupil and later a teacher after getting her classics degree at Royal Holloway College in 1914?
St. Elphin.
Correct. In which magazine did the first William story, The Rice Mould, appear in February 1919?
Home magazine.
Correct. Who is first introduced in Still William as the sweet little girl in white?
Violet Elizabeth Bott.
Correct. What product made a fortune for Botti, Violet Elizabeth's father?
Sauce.
Correct. In Just William, who bribes William with 2 white rats in return for his help in courting his sister Ethel?
James French.
Correct. Which military character appears in several William stories and celebrates his 90th birthday in William the Superman?
General Moat.
Correct. In William IV, who is the huge and horrible woman in whose drawing room William is trapped?
His godmother,
Yes,
Mrs. Adolphus
correct.
Crane.
What was the name of Richmond's nephew who kept a stag beetle in his underwear drawer and fed it with marmalade, thus inspiring an episode in Still William?
Thomas.
Correct. In William again, whom does William visit in Ireland and inadvertently revive from a serious illness?
Great Aunt Jane.
Correct. The surname of Ginger, William's friend and fellow outlaw, is often given as Merridew, but what other surname does Richmond sometimes give him?
Flowerdew.
Correct. In More William, who is befriended by William during school rehearsals for May Day and receives from him a gift of a centipede?
Bettine Franklin.
Correct. Which building is a regular headquarters of the outlaws?
The Old Barn.
Correct. In William and the Brains Trust, what prize does William win for his contribution to a mock invasion exercise?
Pass.
After William, Ginger, Henry, and Douglas had formed the outlaws, who joined as a 5th member whom William liked better than any insect?
Joan.
Correct. In the story William the Bold, who is the black marketeer and village impostor so admired by William's sister Ethel?
Pass.
Who was the regular illustrator of the William books until 1962, whom Richmond didn't meet for over 30 years after their collaboration started?
Thomas Henry.
Correct. Which story, which Richmond left unfinished when she died in 1969, was completed by her niece for the last William book, William the Lawless?
William's Foggy Morning.
Correct. What is the mascot of the protest marchers in William and the Pop Singers?
A pig.
Correct. In William the Bad, what is the name of the pennyman's nephew who shares a dragon skin with William at a May Day masque? And you may answer. Did you hear it all right?
Could you repeat it, please?
Yes. In William the Bad, what is the name of the pennyman's nephew who shares a dragon skin with William at a May Day masque?
Pass. Can't remember.
And at the end of that round, Annabel Frary, you have scored 16 points. You passed on 3. The prize that William won for his contribution to a mock invasion exercise in William and the Brains Trust was a South African ostrich egg. The black marketeer and village impostor that Ethel liked so much in William the Bold was Colonel, so-called Maidstone, and the penniman's nephew, his name was Pelias. Annabel Prairie, thank you very much. And our fourth contender, please. Your name, please.
Duncan Ferguson,
Occupation.
researcher,
And your chosen specialized subject.
The Life and Reign of Genghis Khan.
Duncan Ferguson, you have 2 minutes on the life and reign of Genghis Khan, starting... Now, after whom was Genghis Khan given his original name of Temujin?
A captured Tartar chief.
Correct. What was the name of the girl from the Ongirat tribe whom Temujin married in an arrangement made by his father when they were both children?
Burte.
Correct. When Temujin was captured by the Taikyut, what device did his captors try to use to prevent his escape?
A Kang.
Correct. What is the major and only native source for the early life of Genghis Khan, generally dated around 1240?
The Secret History of the Mongols.
Correct. According to the secret history, near the source of which river was the assembly held in 1206 where Temujin was proclaimed Genghis Khan?
Kerulin.
Nodes Onan. Who was the shaman killed after plotting to set Genghis against his brother Khazar?
Kokatu.
Correct. What was provided by the service known as YAM, which Genghis Khan organized and which was a major contribution to his Mongol empire?
Postal Service.
Correct. Through this service of the scribe Tatatonga, Genghis introduced writing into Mongol culture using which script?
Uyghur.
Correct. Genghis's tuk, or tribal banner, was a pole decked with 9 tails of which animal?
Yak.
Correct. During 1203, to which lake did Genghis withdraw and reassemble his forces after his major defeat by Togrul, now enthroned as Ong Khan? No, it was Balyun, whose death in his assault on Nishapur in 1220 led to a revenge slaughter of the entire population of the city by Genghis Khan the following spring.
Togucha.
Correct. Which great city was captured by Genghis Khan in May 1215?
Peking.
Correct. Who made a 3-year journey to visit Genghis Khan in the Hindu Kush in 1222, having been summoned to discuss immortality?
Changchun.
Correct. In the summer of 1222, which army was destroyed at the Battle of the Kalka River by Mongols led by Subadai and Jebi?
The Russian army.
Correct. After the Mongol defeat, at which battle near Ghazni in 1221 did Genghis Khan visit the scene himself to show his generals their tactical mistakes?
Nisa.
No, it was Perwana. After his death in August 1227, Genghis Khan was buried at the secret site on which holy mountain?
Burken Khaldun.
Burken Khaldun is correct. And at the end of that round, Duncan Ferguson, you have scored 13 points and no passes. Thank you very much. And that brings us to the end of the first round, the specialized subject round. Let us glance at the scores. And in 4th place on 13 points is Duncan Ferguson. In 3rd place on 16 points, Annabel Frary. In 2nd place on 17 points, Mike Meakin. But in the lead by 1 point at this halfway stage on 18 points is Geoffrey Feingold. On now to the second round, the general knowledge round, and as always I will be calling up the contenders in the ascending order of the first round score. So first of all, please may I have Duncan Ferguson. He is a researcher, lives in Wimbledon in southwest London, scored 13 points on the life and reign of Genghis Khan, to be lying in 4th place. Your general knowledge questions are starting. Now, the keep of the Tower of London, begun in 1078, is known by what name?
White Tower.
Correct. In 1871, which king of Prussia became the first emperor of Germany?
William I.
Correct. Boutros Ghali recently succeeded Javier Perez de Cuellar in which office?
Secretary General of the United Nations.
Correct. Which celebrated opera singer was born Helen Porter Mitchell in Melbourne in 1861?
Nellie Melba.
Correct. In a series of children's stories by Elizabeth Beresford, what is the collective name of the creatures which live under Wimbledon Common?
The Wombles.
Correct. In which European capital city on the river Vltava are the Hradčany and also St. Vitus's Cathedral?
Prague.
Correct. In Persian poetry, what are rubaiyat, best known in the West through the writings of Omar Khayyam?
Or poems.
No, what kind of poems? They're quatrains, correct. What name, derived from Old English meaning waystone, is sometimes given to the magnetic iron ore magnetite?
Pass.
In chess, castling is a combined move involving a rook or castle and which other piece?
The Queen.
No, the king. Which 18th century author wrote the life and opinions of Tristram Shandy and A Sentimental Journey?
Sterne.
Correct. Which Italian artist born in 1884 is noted for his elongated portraits and his sculpture influenced by African art?
Modigliani?
Correct. What was the name of the third wife of the Prophet Muhammad, in whose arms he is said to have died in 632 AD?
Fatima.
No, Aisha. In 13th century Italy, there was a bitter conflict between the Guelphs supporting the Pope and which party supporting the Emperor?
The Ghibellines.
Correct. An animal discovered by and named after the Russian explorer Przewalski is an ancestor of which domesticated animal?
Horse.
Correct. Which English public school founded by John Lyon in the 16th century includes Byron, Sheridan, Palmerston and Churchill amongst its former pupils?
Harrow.
Correct. In the Middle East, what is a dragoman?
An interpreter.
Correct. Which former Bishop of Rochester was executed in 1535, 2 weeks before Sir Thomas More?
Fisher.
Correct. The foil and the épée are two of the swords used in modern fencing. What's the third?
Sabre.
Correct. Which popular American television series of the 1980s featured the characters Captain Furillo and Detective Belker?
Hill Street Blues.
Correct. June 1991. I've started, so I'll finish. June 1991 marked the 500th anniversary of the birth of which King of England?
Henry VIII.
Is correct. At the end of that round, Duncan Ferguson, your score has gone up to 30 points. You passed on just the one. The name derived from Old English meaning waystone, sometimes given to the magnetic iron ore magnetite, is lodestone. Duncan Ferguson, thank you very much. And now Annabel Frary, please. She's a postgraduate classics student from Manchester, but living now in Richmond in Surrey. Scored 16 points on the Life and William books of Richmond Compton to be lying in third place. The target you now have to beat for your general knowledge is 30, and they are starting now. Which fruit is the principal ingredient of the Mexican dish guacamole?
Tomato.
No, avocado. Which English novelist wrote Emma and Persuasion in the early 19th century?
Jane Austen.
Correct. At the Battle of Balaclava in 1854, which incident prompted Marshal Bosquet's comment, C'est magnifique, mais ce n'est pas la guerre?
Charge of the Light Brigade.
Correct. Which piece of tack, a strap connecting the girth to the noseband, bit or reins, prevents a horse from throwing back its head?
Martingale.
Correct. There are two royal boroughs in Greater London. One is Kensington and Chelsea. Which is the other?
Pass.
From 1761, which great Austrian composer spent 30 years in the service of the Esterhazy family?
Strauss.
No, Haydn.
Haydn.
What name from its opening words is given to the familiar Catholic prayer to the Blessed Virgin, which is based on the greetings of Gabriel and Elizabeth?
Hail Mary.
Correct. The minor goddesses Euphrosyne, Aglaia, and Thalia were known to the Greeks as the Charites. What is their other collective name?
Muses.
No, the Graces. Which river rising in Tibet and flowing to the East China Sea is the longest in China?
Yangtze Kiang.
Correct. Which German-born opera singer was created a Dame of the British Empire in the recent New Year's honours?
Pass.
In anatomy, the tympanic membrane is commonly known by what name?
Eardrum.
Correct. Who addressed to Althea the line, stone walls do not a prison make, nor iron bars a cage?
Lovelace.
Correct. What French name, meaning hairy caterpillar, is given to a thick velvety yarn resembling such a creature?
Chenille.
Correct. What name is given to the ceremonial meeting between Henry VIII and Francis I of France in Picardy in June 1520?
Field of the Cloth of Gold.
Correct. Which Italian Renaissance master painted the Madonna of the Basket and Mercury instructing Cupid before Venus, both owned by the National Gallery in London?
Tiepolo.
No, Correggio. What name is given to the tides which occur at the time of the moon's first and last quarters?
A pass.
The bibliographic term incunabula denotes early printed books, specifically those printed before the end of which century?
15th.
Correct. What is the most common name, I've started so I'll finish, what is the most common name of the wildflower Digitalis purpurea, which bears tall spikes of purple-pink flowers?
Foxglove.
Is correct. At the end of that round, Annabel Fraley, your score has gone up to 27 points. You passed on 3. The other royal borough in Greater London, apart from Kensington and Chelsea, is Kingston upon Thames. The German-born opera singer who got the DBE was Elizabeth Schwarzkopf, and the name given to tides, which occur at the time of the moon's first and last quarters, is neap tides. Annabel Fraley, thank you very much. And now Mike Meakin, please. A scientific sub-editor with the firm of Chapman and Hall, lives in Wimbledon, scored 17 points on the life and works of Eric Satie to be lying in second place at the halfway stage. The target you still have to beat is 30. Your general knowledge questions starting now. Hollywood is a suburb of which Californian city?
Beverly Hills.
No, Los Angeles. Paul Keating recently succeeded Bob Hawke as Prime Minister of which country?
Australia.
Correct. Who wrote the poem which ends with the line, "They also serve who only stand and wait"?
Tennyson.
No, Milton. In which town is the University of Surrey?
Brighton.
No, Guildford. Which Austrian composer's Symphony No. 2, first performed in 1895, is popularly called the Resurrection Symphony?
Haydn.
No, Mahler. The American astronomer Percival Lowell founded an observatory at Flagstaff, Arizona, to observe which planet which he firmly believed to be inhabited?
Pluto.
No, Mars. According to Mallory, King Arthur was mortally wounded by his illegitimate son. What was his name?
Arthur.
No, Mordred. Leonard Schneider, the American satirical stage comedian convicted of obscenity in the 1960s, was better known by what name?
Fatty Arbuckle.
No, Lenny Bruce. Which fossilized resin used for jewelry and other decorative objects was known to the Greeks as electron?
Amber.
Correct. In the 17th century, the term éminence grise was originally applied to Père Joseph, the confidential agent of which French cardinal?
Robespierre.
No, Richelieu. Which German word is used to describe art or artifacts which are aesthetically judged to be in bad taste?
Pass.
There are 4 South American animals belonging to the camel family. The llama and guanaco are 2. Name one of the others.
Vicuña.
Correct. Which English logician advised and gave his name to the mathematical diagrams in which sets and their relationships are represented by separate or overlapping circles?
Venn.
Correct. In 1488, Bartolomeo Diaz rounded a headland which, according to one early source, he named the Cape of Storms. What's it now called?
Cape of Good Hope.
Correct. Which American jazz clarinetist and band leader was known as the King of Swing?
Lenny Goodman.
Benny Goodman is right. What is characteristic about the appearance of a person who's described as soigné?
Dark.
No, well-groomed. In 1878, which British statesman, returning from the Congress of Berlin, announced, "Lord Salisbury and myself have brought you back peace, but a peace, I hope, with honor"? And you may answer.
Gladstone.
No, the other one. It was Disraeli. And at the end of that round, Mike Meakin, you have scored 23 points. You passed in just the one. The German word that's used to describe art or an artifact that are considered a bit tatty is kitsch. Mike Meakin, thank you very much. And finally, Geoffrey Feingold, please. A solicitor with the West End firm of Robert Brand. Lives in New Barnet in Hertfordshire. Scored 18 points in the life and career of Air Chief Marshal Lord Dowding to be in the lead at the halfway stage. The target you still have to beat is 30. Your general knowledge question starting. Now, what article of clothing is known as a fedora?
A hat.
Correct. Ascorbic acid is a vitamin known by which letter of the alphabet?
C.
Correct. Of the 5 Marx brothers, what was the nickname of Milton, who didn't appear in any of their films?
Seppo.
No, Gummo. On D-Day in June 1944, the British landed in 3 main assault beaches. 2 were Gold and Juno. What was the code name of the other?
Omaha.
No, Sword. What is the meaning of the Latin phrase in articulo mortis?
Pass.
What nickname is given to the Parliament convened by Henry IV in October 1404 because all lawyers were excluded from it?
Interesting Parliament.
No, the unlearned Parliament. In the first book of Samuel, which sacred object captured by the Philistines from the Israelites was returned after it brought destruction and disease?
Ark of the Covenant.
Correct. In Verdi's operas, which eponymous heroine loves Radames, the captain of the Egyptian guard?
Aida.
Correct. What general name is given to fruits such as the plum, peach, and cherry, which comprise a fleshy layer surrounding a stone?
Pitted fruit.
No, drupes. Who was the eponymous hero of the 1934 novel by James Hilton, but a shy, old-fashioned schoolmaster?
Mr. Chips.
Correct. On the surface of the moon, what does the terminator separate?
The different rock layers.
No, the light and dark areas. In 1897, who convened the first Zionist Congress at Basel in Switzerland and became the first president of the World Zionist Organization?
Theodor Herzl.
Correct. Which volcano, situated between Sumatra and Java, erupted in 1883, causing one of the world's worst disasters?
Krakatoa.
Correct. A person who is entitled to write F-R-I-C-S after his or her name is a fellow of which royal institution?
Chartered Surveyors.
Correct. To which diplomatic post was Sir David Haney appointed in 1990?
Pass.
Which 17th century French writer who served as secretary to Colbert is usually credited as the author of Little Red Riding Hood and Cinderella? Which German-born artist became Henry VIII's official court painter in 1537?
Holbein.
Correct. In 1946, which Hertfordshire town was the first place in Britain to be designated a new town?
Stevenage.
Correct. Which French physician advocated, that's starting so finish. Which French physician advocated the use of a swift and sure method of capital punishment, which was named after him and first used in 1792?
Guillotine.
That is right. And at the end of that round, Geoffrey Feingold, you have scored 29 points. You passed on 3. The Latin phrase in articulo mortis means at the point of death. The diplomatic post to which Sir David Hannay was appointed in 1990 was British Ambassador to the United Nations. And the French writer credited as the author of Little Red Riding Hood and Cinderella is Charles Perrault. Geoffrey Feingold, thank you very much. And that rather tense final bout brings us to the end of the second round, the general knowledge round, and therefore the end of this week's program. Let us look at the scores. And in fourth place on 23 points is Mike Meakin. In third place on 27 points is Annabel Frary. In second place on 29 points is Geoffrey Feingold, but the winner this week with that blazing general knowledge round on 30 points is the researcher from Wimbledon, Duncan Ferguson. So Duncan Ferguson becomes our 11th semi-finalist. Our congratulations to him, our thanks and our commiserations to the other contenders for a tremendous competition that you made of it. Well, that is all for this week. Next time, we will be back here in the Dockyard Church with the last batch of 4 contenders for the title of Mastermind 1992. Until then, from Mastermind at Chatham, it's goodbye.
A new Mastermind book is available with all the questions and answers from the winning rounds of 20 years of Mastermind.
A real menagerie for BBC One this Monday with the incredible edible dormouse at 7:30.
Britain's least known mammal is often mistaken for a grey squirrel, but in fact it is a big dormouse.
At 8, Philip Schofield goes back to 1962 and reintroduces some familiar faces. At 8:30, could you live side by side with this man?
Hello? That sounds like a blockage in your waistpipe.
Just part of Monday night on BBC One.
As a tribute to Benny Hill, who died last week, BBC Two shortly will be showing the omnibus celebration of the life and saucy humour of the man regularly watched in over 100 countries. Now, here on BBC One, a new series of Everyman begins with a 3-part special investigation into the rapid growth of religious fundamentalism across the world. The first part penetrates the violent and passionate lives of the extremist Jewish settlers on the West Bank as they live and die attempting to control this highly controversial area in God's name.